Over the last couple of years, ICP has been a very hot crypto in the total crypto world. There's a lot of differentiation of opinions on whether people think ICP is a good investment or a bad investment, whether it is the next AWS or whether it's just another token that launched really high and has been crushed by price over the years. Now, wherever you fall on that spectrum, whatever you think about ICP, there's always going to be a way to make money on this token and every other token out there. There's always a good time to buy a token. And so I want to talk about how this is my personal opinion on how ICP can get back above $20. I want to talk about why the price action is not so good right now. You know, it's being beaten down as stuff like Bitcoin and other tokens are actually on the rise right now in a little bit better setups. But I want to show you what you can look for to determine when ICP is going to get into a better favorable setup and how you can trade that if that setup arises. All right. I want to make this as short and as simple as concise as possible, something very easy to digest, and show you some key things that I am looking at and that I always look at on charts. All right. The first thing is we want to get a very large view of what ICP is doing, okay? And we want to do that on the weekly chart. This up here is the weekly chart, and you can see right here I have the 30 and the 40-week moving averages on this chart. That is called stage analysis. This is what you're going to want to do to just get a sense of where ICP is. Now, right here, we can see that ICP, all bear market 2022, 2023, even into 2024 a little bit, ICP was below the 30 and the 40-week moving average. Now, in order for this chart to be bullish, like it was right here, ICP needs to flip the 30, flip the 40, and the 30 needs to be on top of the 40-week moving average. You can see that right here as ICP was getting bullish again in March 2024, when everything was getting bullish again in March of 2024. But unfortunately, this rally failed. And look, ICP fell back below the 30, back below the 40. And you can see today, the 30 and the 40 are in a downwards trend. They're not so horizontal like they were back here. They're actually more downwards, looking to make their way down a little bit possibly. And so what do we need first? On a long-term time horizon, if you want to invest in ICP in a favorable manner, you need for the 30 and 40-week moving average to be above each other. You need the 30-week above the 40, and ideally you want price above that 30-week. You want price to go horizontal and then upwards, you want moving averages to go horizontal and then upwards in order to have a favorable entry point. Now, if you're a long-term investor, maybe buying down here at around $3 was a good play for you. But if you're trying to make the most of your capital and not sit in assets for a very long time like we have been doing over this market, ever since 2022, we've just been buying and sitting. And so if we want to start to avoid that, if we want to put our capital to work and only buy ICP as it's right here before it jumps up, or whenever that's going to happen over here, you want to buy when price is above the 30-week moving average. So that analysis gives us this idea that this is our stage one base. This is the accumulation zone where long-term investors are buying ICP, waiting for it to run back over $20 again. So somewhere in here is going to be a base of where ICP is really sitting. It could be something like right here. So everything down here is going to be your stage one base for ICP, basically right along this channel right here. This is the accumulation zone. And you can see now that we have retraced back in here because of the tariffs probably and the economic outlook, ICP is back in the stage one base. So it got a little break out of the base when March 2024 hit and everything was going really well, basically into the halving. And then as that has kind of faltered away, price has moved back into an accumulation zone. So this is where long-term investors are going to accumulate a lot. From here, what we want to do, now that we know where ICP is, we know that it's in this stage one base, still accumulating, not really ready for a breakout. We want to move over to the daily chart, okay? And what we want to see on the daily chart is what is price doing against the 50, the 150, and the 200-day moving average. And you can see right now, this yellow line is the 50-day. When price gets above the 50-day moving average, this yellow one, it has a good rally. Today, we are not doing that so much. The big question is ICP going to build a mini base here and start to take over that 50-day? And if it does, what happens then? In order for this ICP chart to get really, really bullish, what I think you want to have happen is you want something you want price to kind of get squeezed up against this high. And the high could be somewhere right here, kind of around around $19. There could also be a different scenario where the high is somewhere right here, around $15. So I think between $15 and $19 is a very interesting spot for ICP, where it's going to have to make a decision whether it continues its bull run or whether it falters back down and takes longer to accumulate. But basically, what you want to see on ICP, and this looks to have failed, is a nice cup and handle pattern. Okay, this looks like it tried to do a cup back into March 2024, and then it tried to do a handle, but it ultimately failed out and kind of went too low, right? This is a little, probably about the lowest you would want this handle to go, and it actually faltered downwards. What you would want to see if you want to start getting more bullish on ICP again is a little bit of a pattern like this, where price does a volatility contraction. So you have this first phase of volatility. Now we're in this second phase of volatility. And what investors would want to see is they would want to see ICP come like this, come back up, and then maybe have a third wave of contraction of volatility. So price would kind of come in here and get really tight against this zone. Volume would be over here and it would decrease, and then price would break out on the lowering of volume at about $20 right here. If we flip back over to the weekly chart, this looks something like this. It looks like price coming back up and taking over for the 30 and 40 week moving average. So these moving averages look like they're going to come like this. If ICP puts in a low kind of right here, what could happen is price could come up to these moving averages, maybe come back down, and eventually break back up on some solid news. Maybe it's this summer, maybe everything's following the M2 money supply, maybe ICP starts following Bitcoin, and it gets above this 30 and 40 week moving average. Well, what happens then is those 30 and 40 week moving averages become support, and ICP can use those moving averages as support in order to get back up to around this $15 to $18 area. If that were to happen, as it comes back up into that area, we would have our volatility contraction pattern of one base, two base, and then it would come here and build a third base. And on that third base, you could potentially get a breakout if price gets squeezed up here, somewhere in here between $17, $18, $15, somewhere in there. I'm not 100% sure yet. Price can get squeezed up in there and then have a potential to break out. If you're not sure or not familiar with the volatility contraction pattern, let me show you a picture here real quick. It looks something, let me find a good one for you. It looks something along the lines of this. You can see how over time price actually comes in here and it gets squeezed. I don't know if you can see this very well, but price comes in here and you can see how we have a trend line right up top here. We have a trend line at around $7 for this stock, and price does a big base, and then it does a second base, and then it can potentially build a third and a fourth base until it gets squeezed up against that neckline and has a breakout. Now, this is what I think ICP could be trying to do, although this kind of economic zone that we are in, this very, very tough environment that we're in, is making it fail a little bit more. And so it has a little bit of negatives right now, but if in a very easy situation, ICP would hold this, it would hold this, and then it would build a third one and kind of get squeezed over here on the right side. This kind of failed and broke down here. But what we want to see with ICP, if we want it to get bullish again, is to get this section back up here and make this one large VCP base. The second of this is the first one, this would be the second one, and then probably build a third one and get really tight on volume and tight on price on the right side over here. In order to have all that happen daily, the first thing you can really see is price would have to get above this 50-day moving average. If that were to happen, it can potentially get up here to around $8 and then fight with the 150 to 200-day moving averages. If it can then get above that, then it will probably be able to flip the 30 and 40-week moving averages and then start to make its way back up here to around this $15 to $20 level. To me personally, this is not a great time to buy ICP. If you're just trading it and trying to get in and out of it for the cycle, I think you can be in some other assets first that will run first and then rotate those profits into ICP as ICP sets up. But right now, it looks like ICP is trying to build a base here so it can start to get up higher again. Finally, what we really want to see is we want to see this action happen here on ICP. If you see this happen, you see the 50-day get back above the 200 and the 150-day, and price starts to ride that 50-day back up into this new high section around $20, then you could be looking at a potential breakout much higher because there's not as much resistance over here because of how far away this price level is. The big resistance ICP is going to be fighting is around here at $8, around here at $14 and $15, and up here at about $20. And so really what we need to see is ICP's price would have to get above the 50-day, start to build a base, get back up to around this zone. And I personally think that this is going to be the ultimate level right here around $20, where ICP is going to come up here. Not sure when, maybe this summer, and it will do something like this. And it will start to make its way back up. And then it might come up here and it might fail and it might build a tight price action here before breaking out. And it doesn't have to happen this far. I don't know how far. It could just be like something like this, very rapid, right? I don't know how long it takes, but what I would be looking at if I was an ICP investor, you want price to get back above the 30 and 40 week moving averages. You want price to get above the 150, 200 and 50-day moving averages. And then you want price to get up here to around this $20 level. Kiss this $20 level, build a tight area of price action where it's not dropping, it's not really rising, it's going up this right side in a tight fashion, building kind of like an ultimate cup and handle. The ideal scenario is probably a big cup. This is all one big cup right here. And then it comes over here and it builds its little handle over here to the side. And then from that handle, it will be able to break out. So if you're an ICP investor looking at, what's going on with ICP? Why is price not doing so well? Why is it falling behind when other assets aren't? I would be looking for that giant cup and handle pattern or that giant VCP pattern where it goes 1, 2, 3 and builds up a zone of tight price action before a breakout. That would be a big sign for investors that ICP is getting very bullish again. If ICP can get back above the 30 and 40 week moving averages that we see here on our weekly chart right now, that is the indicator for bullishness. You can see the indicator for bearishness is that it crossed below its 30 and 40 week moving averages and ultimately fell from about $100 down to $3. Okay, and if you want just a little bit more proof that this is kind of what I look at when I'm doing some of these charting things, let's look at Solana. A lot of people in the ICP community probably are familiar with Solana, probably know how well Solana did, and you could have done this same play in when was this 2023 for Solana. And so here we have a neckline that Solana ran against. It did this 1, 2, 3 VCP tightening pattern, or you can kind of call it like a cup and handle. You can see like this cup, this handle, and then on the breakout of that move from this resistance, this resistance, and then this resistance, on that breakout, you could have bought Solana at this time somewhere on one of these 2 weeks right here, and you would have made about 600%, 700, 800% profit depending on when you sold. I'd probably sell right here as price moves into this moving average like that and taking in about a 300% profit. So if you're looking at ICP, wondering when should I buy ICP, how should I chart ICP, what is the best way to look at ICP, that is how I would do it. I personally think ICP is it's struggling right now in this economy with the tariffs, with the uncertainty, with the crypto, but we're seeing other leading cryptos turn around. You can see things like Bitcoin. Bitcoin was running into the same thing. You see back here, I charted the 2023 Bitcoin, but even today, Bitcoin, if we go into the daily chart, you can see how Bitcoin is back above its 200 day. That's this one. It's back above its 150 day. That's this one. And it's back above its 50 day. And all we need is for this 50 day to get above these two moving averages. Bitcoin price, this could look something like this. This 50 day rolls back up here. Bitcoin price chops along here, touches it, and then we really have an explosive move in May. ICP could follow as the rest of the crypto market follows Bitcoin at that time. But you can see how even Bitcoin is building. Look at this beautiful cup and handle that is building right here. And if we just take something like this, you can see how Bitcoin itself, maybe the price action is actually like up here. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell until the right side is developed. But you can see how Bitcoin itself, let me clean this up just one second. You can see how Bitcoin itself is doing about the same price action that we think ICP could do. One big cup, maybe we're going to get a second cup, or maybe we're going to get a handle before a larger breakout in later May, possibly in June, possibly. However, Bitcoin decides to follow that M2 money pattern. So if you're interested in ICP, this is how I am viewing the ICP charts. I think that this is how a lot of people could view the ICP charts. And just think of it as like a big cup and a possible handle, although this handle failed. So maybe we need 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, maybe a couple VCP cups before we get that giant breakout. But I'd watch this $20 level. If price can get back up here, if it can get back up here and really get tight along this level before a breakout on high volume, that would be what you want to see. And what I mean by high volume real quick is you can see how right here where ICP broke out, look at this. I don't know if you can see all the way down here. Let's zoom in a little bit. But you can see how volume right here declined. Look at how this volume's declining on this breakout right here. Look at how large this volume got. Look at how large that volume got. Much, much higher as volume. You can see it up here in this corner right here, up here in the top left of my screen. When we're looking at these days, this is about 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 ICP being traded. On this breakout right here, where volume really cranked up, it got to 1 million. And on this secondary leg up, it got up to $6 million. And so that is a key indicator of a giant breakout that you would want to see when ICP gets back up here and gets squeezed on this level. So right now, volume is about, back into the $500,000, $700,000 range. If price got up here, maybe volume would contract down to about 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 before breaking up into the millions again. That's how I'm looking at ICP. I'd really love to know what you think down in the comments. If you're an ICP bull, maybe you're buying down here. You're probably still in profit today, but this is just something you can watch to understand when the broader market might start buying some more ICP, and price action can get a lot more aggressive a lot quicker. Okay, that is my ICP chart analysis. That's what I think is happening on the ICP chart. I still think it can get bullish again, but right now it's not as bullish. These are the things I'd look at if you want it to flip bullish. And if you're still watching, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. And definitely we'll see you in the next one for some more crypto content. If you want me to view any other tokens, whether it's Aave, whether it's Uniswap, whether it's Solana, ICP, or any ICP tokens, drop a comment down below. I'll be able to check them out and possibly review your token next.